Are the Atlanta Braves being too cautious with Ronald Acuna Jr.? Were they too quick to bring back Spencer Strider? We'll talk about all that on today's episode of Locked On Braves, so let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Jake Mastroianni. You can follow me on social media at ShortstopBall. Check out the podcast there at LockedOn_Braves on X and Locked On Braves on Instagram. If you're new and watching this on YouTube, please do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, and leave me a comment down below, as it does help us out a ton whenever you do that. I know CJ Fuller and others leave me those comments just to help out the algorithm each and every day, and I appreciate that a ton whenever you do that for me. If you're listening on the audio version, make sure you leave me a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Another way to help us out here at Locked On Braves. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of each and every day. On today's episode, we're going to talk about Spencer Strider's outing from Tuesday and the offense's just dreadful performance. We're also going to talk about Ronald Acuña Jr. Are the Atlanta Braves being too cautious in bringing him back? We'll get into all of that, and I'll set you up for Wednesday's game, which, look, you can't have a must-win game in the middle of May, but the Braves are in danger of losing a series to the Nats, and they cannot let another one of these series get away against a team that they should be beating. So it's a big game on Wednesday for AJ Smith-Shawver. We'll preview that later. And this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at Monarch Money for 50% off your first year. Well, the Atlanta Braves head to Washington after having some great momentum in Boston. You take 2 out of 3 in Boston. You win a great pitcher's duel on Friday night. You do drop one and give one away on Saturday, but a game that's very winnable if you have your best bullpen arms ready to go. But then you bounce back. You win a big game on Sunday night. Your offense looks the best that it's been all year long. You get an off day, so all those arms are rested and ready to go. You're playing a Nats team that you should be able to take care of. Spencer Strider's back on the mound, and the Braves lose 5-3. And doesn't that kind of seem like the story for this Braves team this year, even after the 0-7 start, where they've been much better and been a team that's playing above 500? It still just feels like they can't get out of their own way from having that big breakthrough. You know, you drop that series in Pittsburgh, and then here you are after a huge momentum swinging series in Boston that you win. You got the Nats on deck, a team that you just took 3 out of 4 of, and you probably should have swept that series, except you let another one get away because you didn't have your best bullpen arms ready to go in that Wednesday game, and you drop it. And in disgusting fashion, too, because it was a very winnable game. Despite the struggles early on from Spencer Strider, it was a very winnable game. And I want to get into Spencer Strider and make that our main focus, but let me just touch on the offense really quickly. A pathetic performance. Again, probably their best game of the year on Sunday in Boston. And they follow it up with a just absolutely pathetic performance on Tuesday night against Washington. 3 runs on 7 hits, 1 walk, just struck out just 4 times and had 13 hard hit balls, but only 4 of them had an ideal launch angle. So not great contact overall, even though they were putting the ball in play a ton. But just really outside of the second inning, you did nothing. And again, Strider put them in a hole, but it was a 1-run game after the second inning. And you can't score a single run against the Nationals pitching staff, against Mitchell Parker and the worst bullpen in baseball. 2 of the relievers they brought in have an ERA over 6 on the year. And the offense couldn't score a single run. They only had 2 hits after that second inning, one of them by Nick Allen, one of them by Stuart Fairchild. And by the way, those were leadoff hits to begin an inning. With the heart of your order coming up in the 8th inning, Fairchild pinch hits, gets on base, gets a hit, and then Riley immediately hits into a double play and kills all the momentum in that inning. They just could not get anything going. Too many empty at bats, too many 1, 2, 3 innings. And this offense just can't get on a roll the way that they need to have the big run that this team needs. Again, you put yourself in a 0-7 hole that you're still trying to dig out of it. Yes, they got above 500. They got 500. That's great. That's not where you want to be. You want to be 10 games over 500. That's where you're trying to get to, where you need to be. And dropping games like this, dropping games like they did against the Pirates because your offense just can't consistently score enough runs is very, very frustrating. And again, I get it. They fell behind early, but it was a 1-run game after the second inning, and you don't score another run the rest of the way. This, to me, is a loss that is squarely on the offense. The bullpen was fine. Bummer, Montero were actually pretty good in this one once Montero found a glove that they let him use. Dylan Lee did give up a run, but it was up for a balk. 2 runs given up in this game, one in part because of a wild pitch, another in part because of a balk. So that's very frustrating. But again, for me, this loss comes down to the offense and just not being able to win a game for the pitching staff, who, again, 5 runs against the Nats should not be insurmountable, but you do nothing for 7 innings in this game. That's just unacceptable. Now let's focus on Spencer Strider in his return. He goes 4 1/3 innings, 6 hits, 1 walk, gives up 4 earned runs, 3 strikeouts, 1 home run to Dylan Cruz. Only throws 75 pitches, so I would imagine that was probably about where his pitch count was, but also coming back out for that 5th inning, he walked the leadoff batter, and then he gave a pretty hard hit fly out. So probably the right decision there to go ahead and pull him. Gave up 3 runs in that first inning. One of them, like I said, because of the wild pitch, he struck out the batter in that at bat. There were runners on second and third. The wild pitch scored a run, but he struck out that batter. Assuming everything plays out the same, would have left him stranded there and given up just the 2 runs. And I look at this start as a whole, and obviously the first inning got away from him, and the location was not good. Pitches were kind of all over the place. There's 2 pitches in particular in that inning that I think Spencer Strider would really like to have back, and it was back-to-back at bats. He threw sliders that were down, but they were middle down, and hitters were able to have the barrel stay in the zone long enough to just kind of whip those balls into right field. And that slider, generally a pitch for left-handed batters as a right-handed pitcher, you want that, kind of down and in. And both of those were middle down. Now, one of them was way down below the zone. I get that. It wasn't a terrible pitch, but it was middle. And that's just easier to get to. The other one was middle down, and it was in the zone and just not where you want that pitch at all. Outside of those 2 pitches and going forward in the start, I actually thought he was fine. He wasn't great by any means, but I thought he was fine. 4-seam averaged 95 in this one. He topped out at 97. In 2023, he was averaging 97.2. I don't think it's realistic at this point in his recovery and his return to expect him to average 97. And certainly he can't be as dominant as he was at that velocity. He himself has said that, and it's just true. You look at the home run that he gave up tonight to Dylan Cruz, or on Tuesday night to Dylan Cruz. It was 95. It was up. It was a 39-degree launch angle. That's not generally an ideal launch angle, but Dylan Cruz able to hit it 108 miles per hour off the bat because it was 95. If that's 97, that's probably a deep fly out. But because it's 95, he's able to get to that ball. And that's where you see the difference in 2 miles of velocity there in that exact pitch. I mean, that's how close it is to that being probably an easy fly out and it being a home run. And he just can't be as dominant. You can't get away with stuff as easily at 93, 94, 95 as you can 96, 97, 98. And until that velocity comes back, hopefully at some point it comes back, that's going to be a struggle. Now, it was 18 inches of induced vertical break on that 4-seam fastball, which is really good. Again, he can be a really good pitcher at this velocity. He just can't be a great dominant pitcher like we've seen in the past. And maybe even more concerning is the fact that the fastball velocity went down as the game went on. He was sitting 93, 94 in that 4th inning. And again, working his way back, kind of understandable, but it is, a bit worrisome that the fastball velocity dipped down to that point as the outing went on. He threw 19 sliders in this one. I mentioned the 2 really bad ones he threw in the first inning. I thought outside of that, the slider was much better, and a lot of them were, down and in on left-handed hitters or down and away to the few righties that were actually in the lineup. 5 whiffs on 12 swings against that slider, 0 called strikes with that slider. The Nats, as we know from the last series, a very aggressive team. Anything in the zone, they're going to be swinging at. Had to throw 8 changeups in this one. I mentioned 7 of their batters were hitting from the left-handed side as either a true lefty or a switch hitter. So he had to mix in some changeups, not a pitch that he's obviously very comfortable with. No whiffs on those changeups on 5 swings and just 1 called strike. I know you have at least 1 hit on that changeup too. Certainly wasn't as sharp for Spencer Strider. He even hit a couple of batters in this one. But overall, I thought the command was solid for his first start back after missing nearly a year and then coming back and missing a month. I thought the command was solid overall, but there were some pitches that got away from him and a couple of mistakes. And hit pitchers, even when pitchers are on and they're in a groove, they're going to make a couple of mistakes a game. It's just unfortunate, those 2 sliders. And again, not terrible pitches, one of them way below the zone, but those 2 back-to-back were the ones that I thought really stung in this game for Spencer Strider. Only gave up 5 hard hit balls and had 5 balls with a decent launch angle on the sweet spot. I mentioned the home run. It was actually 39-degree launch angle, not the typical launch angle you want for a home run, but because it was 95, he's able to get the barrel up to it and hit it out at 108 miles per hour. The question that you have to ask here is, did they bring him back too soon? Should he have had an actual rehab start instead of a sim game? I never understood that. Pitching in a sim game, why not just let him make a rehab start if that's the case? I mean, it's still not high level intensity and you can control it a little bit better, but you're also going to get a better answer. So I never really understood the sim game part of it. Just let him throw an actual rehab start. It's going to give you a better idea of where he is. But in hindsight, yeah, he probably should have had a rehab start to get reacclimated to pitching in an actual game. And again, I think just more so than that, we're going to have to be patient with Spencer Strider and him working his way back and understanding that it's going to take a while for that velocity to come back. Again, if it comes back, I'm hopeful that it does. It's going to take a little bit for the command to come back on these pitches. I think we're all very blown away. I think it's probably the word to use here. There's probably a better one for it. But that first outing we saw in spring training, that looked like vintage Spencer Strider. But we have to keep in mind, he's probably a bit pumped up his first outing just back overall, and it was a short outing. So he was able to dial up the velocity a little bit, but the command was just so impressive in that first spring training outing. And it had me and many of us thinking, okay, he's just going to be back to who he was. But now you had the rehab starts that he went through, the 1 big league start, then having to sit out for a month. Again, after sitting out for a year, I think we're just going to have to be extremely patient with Spencer Strider. And especially early on, we may just see a guy that's only good to really good and not a guy that can be really good to best pitcher in baseball. And I think we may have to lower our expectations to that for Spencer Strider. Again, at averaging 95, being able to reach back and hit 97 with a good slider that's going to get plenty of swings and misses, he can still be a good pitcher. But until that velocity gets back to where it was in the past, he can't be a dominant pitcher. So again, maybe lower the expectations just a little bit to this being a guy that's maybe more, 6, 7 innings of with just, 6 or 7 strikeouts instead of a guy that's consistently 7 innings with double-digit strikeouts. That's where I'm lowering the expectations. I'm not saying he's going to be an awful pitcher or anything. I'm just saying he might not be the best pitcher in baseball. He might not be the most dominant pitcher in baseball. So not the first outing back that he was looking for in the second return this year, but hopefully he does come out of the start healthy, and hopefully he'll be back out in 5 days and continue to build on this and work his way back to being that Strider that we all know and love. And hopefully that's the case for Ronald Acuña Jr. too. Some recent comments by Alex Anthopoulos have many people asking, are the Braves being too cautious with Ronald Acuña Jr. in his return? We'll talk about that here next. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all the money go? I do it all the time. I got a family of 5. We got mouths to feed. We got kids playing sports in school. Money's just flying out of the account. Between dining out and supporting your kids, online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building your wealth. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. I mentioned, got a lot of mouths to feed here. We got 3 kids. We've been married for almost 10 years. I can tell you it is much less stressful if you and your partner are on the same page financially, and Monarch Money can help you get there and take the stress out of everything, helping you track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and getting you on the same page. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off of your first year. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. Make sure you check out the guys over at Locked On MLB. They got several podcasts coming into the feed over there, including the one by Solely each and every day, and the MLB Game Night guys, catching up with the highlights from each and every night around Major League Baseball. So make sure you subscribe to them on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast, and give Locked On MLB your second listen of the day. Many people asking, myself included, where is Ronald Acuña Jr.? What is the holdup with Ronald Acuña Jr.? We see him sprinting during spring training. He looks great. He's saying, I'm ready to go. Just waiting on them to give me the call. He makes a couple of plays in a couple of rehab games. He's crushing home runs. He's getting on base. And everybody's excited. And once Ronald Acuña Jr. back, he got people speculating that he could be back by the end of April, early May, mid-May. Here we are, May 20th, and it doesn't sound like we're all that close to him being back. Once you listen to some of the comments from Alex Anthopoulos that I'll get to in a minute, but let's go through the timeline for Ronald Acuña Jr. because I think another reason many of us are wondering what is taking so long is that it didn't take this long the first time around with Ronald. The first time he tore his ACL, he got injured on July 10th of 2021. He returned to the majors less than 10 months later from the first ACL tear that he had. So he tears the ACL on his other knee in May 26th of 2024. It's almost 12 months later, and he still has not returned to action. So first time he tears it, he's back in less than 10 months. Tears the other one, and we're going to be looking at about a year before he returns. So here's some possible reasons why they're being extra cautious this time around. I'm going to give you one definite reason why they aren't being this caution that many people are speculating on. One reason they're being extra cautious is that he came back too soon the first time. I think we can all admit that, and it was pretty evident by the way that Ronald played that year, the number of maintenance days he kept having to take because the knee was barking so much. And I think that's one reason why they're being extra cautious with him this time around, making sure that when he's back for good, he's back at full strength, and they're not having to continually sit him. I still think they're going to have to sit him every now and then or try to find him a spot in the DH, which is going to be hard to do with Ozuna. Another point coming in a minute. But I think that's one of the major reasons why they're being extra cautious this time around is because he came back too quick the first time, and he wasn't himself. Second reason I think they're being extra cautious is because he's torn both ACLs, and that's 2 major injuries on both of his knees. And yes, while he's done it once, so he knows the recovery on the other one the second time around, and he said this one feels better than the other one did at this point, coming back and all of that, it's still, he's torn both ACLs, and he's probably going to have to be a little bit of a different player. And so I think that's another reason why they're being extra cautious. And the biggest reason why I think Ronald Acuña Jr. still is not back is that he can only play in the field. And I've said this many times, but if the DH spot were a more fluid spot and you didn't have somebody in Marcell Ozuna that has to be there every day, Ozuna cannot play in the field, I think Ronald would have already been back. But the fact that he has to play in the field and you can't just have him out there being a liability both defensively and a liability to himself by getting injured, because he's going to want to go all out, and you just can't have that. And I think that's the biggest holdup for Acuna coming back. Just my personal opinion here, but based on what we've seen and what we've been told, the bat looks fine and he looks good running. But again, you can't have him just be a liability in right field. Although you could argue they put Jorge Soler out there last year at the end of the season, but that was just a lack of option. I saw somebody else say this too, that they're not rushing him back because things are good right now. How do you feel about that after Tuesday's game would be my question to you. Verdugo's been struggling. Eli White has cooled off some as well. I do agree, those guys have done a fine job, but you're telling me you wouldn't rather just have Ronald Acuña Jr. back right now batting leadoff instead of Alex Verdugo? Yeah, I would take Acuna every day. So again, I think the biggest reason he's not back is because he has to play in the field, and they have to trust that he can at least be a serviceable outfielder there for the Atlanta Braves. Now, here are some recent comments from Alex Anthopoulos on Ronald Acuña Jr. Alex said, Acuna is traveling with a minor league team. He will be spending, we don't have days per se, but we played him back-to-back days in the outfield for 6 innings. He played a third day in a row when he was the DH. This is last week when he got to Gwinnett. He did play back-to-back games in the outfield. I saw some people say that he needed to play back-to-back days. He's done that. He's played back-to-back days in the field already. He did that last week. It was 6 innings in both of those, and then he played a third straight game as a DH. Alex goes on to say he played a third day in a row as a DH. We'd like to get him as close to 9 innings as we can in the field. We feel pretty good about his timing at the plate and his at-bats. I'd say so. He's been crushing the baseball and had 4 walks in a game the other day. We feel pretty good about his timing at the plate and his at-bats. Most of the time when you send these position players on rehab assignments, it's about getting at-bats, getting timing. He's been playing in sim games and live batting practice since spring training opened. He's been playing in sim games and taking live batting practice for 3 months. For 3 months now, because he said he's been doing that since spring training opened. Makes sense why the timing is probably okay. And Ronald himself has said, the biggest thing right now is being on time with the fastball. And that's what he struggled with, last year, at the beginning of last year when he was healthy. So that is going to be key for him. But we're talking about nearly 3 months of this man facing, playing in sim games, facing live batting practice, and now playing in some actual rehab games. He is, according to Alex Anthopoulos, had a lot of reps in the box. And that's why I think he follows it up with this. And what I said earlier, Alex says, this is about getting his legs underneath him. He's not attempted a stolen base, and he's not played 9 innings in the field. So we'll spend the week working him through that. We'll check in daily with the staff, but you should see the workload start to increase starting on Tuesday, a day game on Wednesday on the road. So he'll be off and then play again on Thursday. So he'll play 2 of the next 3. We'll continue to see how he does, but he's getting very, very close. Now, just to update you, he was supposed to play in the field on Tuesday for Gwinnett, but because of weather, they moved him to DH. So that takes away a day that they could have gotten him reps in the outfield. We'll see what happens on Wednesday with the day game, if they'll still sit him since he DH'd on Tuesday. Maybe that plan gets altered with him DHing on Tuesday, that maybe they will play him in the field in a day game on Wednesday. But either way, that could hold him back a little bit because they didn't get to see him play in the field on Tuesday. And likely of these 2 or 3 games, he's only going to get to play in the field once. And I would assume that would be on Thursday. So Alex went on to say he'll play 2 of the next 3. We'll continue to see how he does, but he's getting very, very close. AA on this is from Lindsey Crosby, who posted this. AA on what would need to happen for Ronald to come back early. Let's say he plays 7 innings, steals 3 bases, makes unbelievable diving plays in the outfield, and he comes in and says, I'm ready. I got to play. I'm ready to go. We'll have a conversation, but I don't think that's going to happen. So Alex Anthopoulos has really frustrated me with his comments this offseason. And this one is just what? I mean, you're asking a guy to, and I know he's being somewhat facetious here, but it's almost like saying he's got to go out and play show us that he can be an MVP type of player again before we'll come back. And Ronald has said he's ready. Ronald has said, I'm ready whenever they tell me to play. And so he's already told you that. Ronald's already told you he's ready. It is on you. It is on the Braves at this point as to when you're going to play him. Ronald has said he's ready to go. But Alex saying, he has to steal 3 bases, make unbelievable diving plays in the outfield. That's a terrible comment, in my opinion. He also has said, is it a 0% chance that he could be back on Friday? No, but is it likely? I would say probably not. So he shoots down the idea of him coming back this weekend. A lot of people speculating that he could be ready by the homestand against the Padres this upcoming weekend, but it's looking like that's not going to be the case. Now, one reason that they aren't being cautious, let me see. One reason that the Braves are being too cautious is not because of the punishment. I know I'm not saying that right, but I've seen many people say that he's being punished by the Braves for his comments. That's not the case here. Again, I think this is just mostly because he has to play in the field, and it's that last step of just showing that he is not going to be a liability in right field, which, again, for me, you put Jorge Soler out there, you need the bat at the top of the lineup. The bat looks good. He's been playing in sim games and taking live BP for 3 months now. Get the man up here and just stand him out there in right field. If you can live with Soler out there, you can live with Acuna out there and let him bat lead off. But I don't think we'll see him back until we see him play at least 7 innings in back-to-back games. They said the same thing about Alex Verdugo. We need to see him play a full 9 innings in the outfield before he comes back. And I think all he did was play 7 innings in back-to-back games. So I think if we see Acuna play 7 innings in the field in back-to-back games, that's when you know that the Braves are going to bring him up. If that happens over the weekend, because again, it's not likely going to happen in the next 3 days because he DH'd on Tuesday. He's likely going to be off on Wednesday, and then he'll play in the field on Thursday. But if that were to happen over the weekend, we could see him join the team in Philadelphia next Tuesday. That's going to be my guess for now, but nobody really knows. Either way, this has gone on a lot longer than many people expected, and I just want to see Ronald Acuña Jr. back at top of the lineup, especially after watching this offensive performance on Tuesday night. I cannot wait to see Ronald back. So I understand the cautiousness from the team. It's very, very frustrating, especially when your offense has struggled so mightily, and especially when they've struggled so much in the leadoff spot. I want to see Ronald back for the excitement, but also to hopefully give this offense the boost that it needs to give them that consistency that they've been lacking. And hopefully that consistency gets back on track on Wednesday, because the Braves need a win that's even up the series against the Nationals. They cannot drop the series, which means they cannot drop the Wednesday game. AJ Smith-Shawver trying to continue his run of really good luck here lately. Will that happen? We'll discuss that here next. Well, after dropping game 1 of the series against the Nats, they have to win these next 2 games to win the series. And again, it's hard to call anything must win in May, especially for a team that's 500. But you can't let another series like this get away from you on the road. You had the series loss to the Pirates. You blew a game against the Nationals at home you should have won. You blew a game against the Red Sox that you could have won. You go and now lose this series against the Nats with the schedule that you have coming up. You got the Padres over the weekend, and then you go to Philadelphia. You got to find a way to win these next 2 games. And it's AJ Smith-Shawver on the mound against Trevor Williams. Trevor Williams has given up 5, 4, 4, and 3 earned runs in his last 4 starts, similar to Mitchell Parker. He's given up at least 3 earned in 7 of his 9 starts this year. His last start was against the Braves. He went 4 1/3 innings, gave up 5 hits, no walks, 4 runs, 3 earned, 4 strikeouts, knock him out early, and score on their bullpen. It is the worst bullpen in baseball unless they're facing the Atlanta Braves. Score early, score often, score throughout. Please have one of those games against this Nationals pitching staff, because even though they won the 4-game series in Atlanta, they did not do a good job of putting that team away. Score early, score often, put them away. And I don't care what AJ Smith-Shawver does on the mound, because he's probably due a little bit of a regression. He has a 2.33 ERA and a 4.90 expected ERA. At some point, you feel like there's going to be, he's not going to pitch to a 2.33 ERA. So there's going to be some regression. It's just how hard will it be? He hasn't allowed more than 3 runs in any outing so far this year. So he's been very consistent, and he's allowed just 1 earned run and 3 May starts. So to ask AJ Smith-Shawver to go out there again, facing a team for the 2nd time in a week, and give you another 6 innings of 2 earned or less. Last time against him, he gave up two runs on 2 hits and 2 walks, but just one of those runs was earned. To continually ask him to go out there and do that and not get enough from your offense is not fair to him. So again, I hope AJ goes out there and has another great start. He certainly is capable, but for me, this game is on the offense. Go out there, score a bunch of runs so that it doesn't really matter if AJ Smith-Shawver has a bit of a bump. It doesn't matter if Spencer Strider gives up 3 runs in the 1st inning. Win a game with your offense against this Nationals pitching staff, against Trevor Williams and their bullpen. Go win a game offensively and help out your pitching staff. That's what I hope to see the Atlanta Braves do on Wednesday. I hope to see AJ Smith-Shawver pitch a great game. I'm just saying, my point is, regardless of what happens, I need to see the offense go out and put up a big number against this Nats pitching staff, to the point where AJ can have a regression game if he needs to, and they can still win. I want to see this offense win a game. Sorry, that's the simple way of putting what I'm trying to say. I want to see this offense win a game for the Atlanta Braves, even up this series. You cannot let this series get away from you with what you have coming up on the schedule. Well, that would do it for this episode of Locked On Braves. Thanks so much for joining me here today. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. If you're new, hit the thumbs up button, leave me a comment down below, and make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next time.